welcome to the lab. I'm Jen Williams and delighted to spend some time with you today. Our time together is going to be short and we have a few things to tackle. So, as my teenagers would say, let's lock in. As a quick reminder, or in case you did not see or hear the trailer, this podcast is going to be perfectly imperfect. I am actively managing my maximizer and leading through this creative journey with my ideation and self-assurance in full force. So let's jump in and bear with me where I stumble. This is brand new for me too. So today we're going to talk about strengths beyond the session. There's this little phenomenon I see all the time in my coaching practice. A team sits through an incredible high energy strengths workshop. They discover their unique themes, they laugh, they connect, they have fun, and they leave feeling inspired and engaged. But then what happens? Monday morning hits, the emails start piling up, a crisis emerges, the daily grind really just starts to take over. And those lovely strengths folders and workshop materials get placed on a shelf or stuffed in a drawer or virtually filed away. So within a couple weeks, the team slips right back into their usual patterns of communicating and working. And those strengths, those wonderful things that they just spent all that time in their workshop, becomes that fun thing that they once did, and people can barely remember their top 5. It becomes that workshop high versus the Monday morning reality friction point. So today in the lab, for our first session together, I'm going to give you a couple simple tools to help you start navigating through that exact problem so that strengths don't end up trapped in a notebook, but they actually become part of your weekly operational DNA. Whether you're an individual or part of a team or a leader, hopefully everyone can use these tools to help move forward with strength. So let me start with the question that I hear all the time. It typically goes something like this. So Jen, how do we keep the momentum beyond the session when there's no time, our bandwidth is limited, we have competing priorities, customers, clients, projects, and just the daily work in general? My answer, you keep it as simple as possible. Keeping strengths alive doesn't require adding a massive new program, more long meetings, more people, a heavy initiative. Most people are overloaded already. The secret to keeping strengths alive isn't about adding, it's about integrating. The trick to integrating is that that's really what's going to bring the language so that you're integrating it into what you're already doing, and then you're actually using it to communicate with one another. Think of it like this. Strength shouldn't be an event that you attended in the past. It needs to be the language that people are speaking in the present. I like to think of it like exercise, which I will tell you I so hate. But we know exercise is good for us. However, unless we actually engage in the activity, we don't really gain a benefit. Strengths are the same way. To get the benefit, we have to use the tool. So when I think about tools though, for the tool to actually stick and gain traction, it's got to have zero friction and be relatively quick. I find attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. So I aim for the 5-minute rule and bake it into the routine. It will naturally then integrate into the culture. When the language is highly visible, when it is used regularly, it's no longer treated like session workshop lingo or an abstract concept. It actually starts becoming accessible. It becomes that real-time tool. So I will tell you, I even do this at home. You will learn on this podcast that I make family members take their strengths assessments, and I use the language with everyone. My kids have been speaking the language of strengths since they were toddlers because it was just part of our routine. So when it becomes routine, that's when the habits form. Let me give you just a a quick aside. I've got a 20-year-old niece and she's bringing a friend to California. And so she sends me this text and says, "Hey, Aunt Jen, can I get a strengths code for my friend?" I don't have to push the language. I don't have to push the codes or the reports. When it's being used regularly, routinely, the habit forms. It just becomes the culture of how we operate, whether that's in workplaces or families or teams. And it's how we operate, it's how we connect, it's how we engage, and it's how we include others, even in families. So I could talk about that all day, but let me get you to the tools that are really going to help you build strengths and gain that momentum as a team. So I'm giving you 2 tools today. I want to give you one for yourself and then a second tool that's really just, it's kind of fun and it's a way that you can carry that workshop momentum forward. I have both of these tools available on my website, so feel free to visit www.strengthstudio.com/lab and you can grab both of these tools instantly. And please know, I am not tracking you through my website. I post the materials there to share with you, but I am not collecting your information. So for the first tool, the micro moment energy audit. I love this tool because this is a tool that you can use whether you're new to strengths or whether you've been working with it for a long time. This is one that even I revisit from time to time to just make sure that my themes are in balance and I have the right momentum to keep my energy up and moving forward. So here's what you do. You pick one strength. Just pick one of your top strengths from your report. That's it. You read about that theme and then you look for it in action. You look for moments where you are feeling energized. You look for moments where you feel drained. And then this helps you pause and recalibrate from a place of strength. And here's the thing. I always get the question, so Jen, what am I looking for when you say pause and look for strengths in action? So I want to give you some questions and some specific things to watch for because this can help you start looking for your strengths. And everything's clunky in the beginning. I mean, heck, look at me on my podcast. This is clunky, but over time, things get smoother, they get easier, and you'll start seeing your themes emerging in those moments where you're fueled or drained. So first, let's start with the fuel check. When you have moments that you finish a task or a project or a conversation and you're generally feeling energized and enthusiastic, or you notice that your energy is high, you're feeling vibrant, completely dialed in, that's the moment you pause and you ask yourself, what specifically was I doing in that moment? Which strength was at play? Was it the one that you wanted to start focusing on this week, right? How did it show up? And then third, how can I intentionally replicate that condition again tomorrow? It doesn't have to be the same project, but how can you tap into those same behaviors and actions? So let me give you an example for myself. This week I felt fueled developing a resource for this podcast. It tapped into my ideation and my achiever. I can leverage that same energy by setting aside time tomorrow at the same time to ideate on what's next. And it doesn't just have to be projects and tasks, right? It can be relationships, it can be conversations, it can be connections. So look for that in action. Follow those prompts. And just as important as watching for where you are in that strength zone, we also need to manage our energy when we feel depleted and do the drain down check. So think of it the same way, or think of it like the battery on your phone. When it starts to go a little, haywire, when that battery gets a little too low, right? Like systems start shutting down, we're not functioning at our full capacity. The same goes for us as individuals. When we feel those moments of friction, of frustration, of tension, of exhaustion, that's your moment to pause and ask, okay, what was I specifically doing? is one of my strengths being over leverage? Or maybe it's just completely starved right now. Maybe it's completely underutilized. And then that's the moment where knowing isn't enough. We actually have to do something with that information. So that's where we start considering, okay, what calibration do I need? What minor adjustment can I make to help shift my energy? And let me give you an example of my daughter on this one. So she is high in relationship building. Last week, she comes home from school after a week of state testing and just really boring content and wrap up, right? So she sits on the couch and you can tell she is just depleted, she's exhausted, and she crashes from the day, right? And part of that is the limited social interaction that has emerged at school this week, right? For a relationship builder, oh, that's a killer. So for her, she was underutilizing her greatest assets. So to refuel, what did she do? She went outside to be with her bestie, sit, chat. It was like an instant recharge. It was almost like I stuck the MagSafe charger on her back, and like your iPhone refuels, same thing. Instantly, you start seeing her reemerge. You start seeing her strengths start to come back to life, right? Her positivity, you could hear her giggle and you could see her refueled. She could have stayed on the couch like a little zombie, but she knows her power source is relationships, and that is her refuel for when she is depleted and drained. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to take time this week. Just pick one of your strengths, review what the report has to say, and then watch for those moments where you're feeling fueled, where you're feeling depleted, and see if you can pinpoint how to keep that energy up. This is where it's an important practice for integrating strengths into your life. Rather than just letting it be in a report or sit on a shelf, you make it a superpower when you can spot them in action and calibrate them in real time. Okay, so now I have one more tool for you. And this second one, this is kind of more of a fun thing. When you come back from a workshop and you're back together in the office, it's one thing to look at your report, to do things on your own. It's another to how do we integrate? How do we use this as a team? And that language, that's where it becomes really important. So this is what I have for you. The strengths trading cards. This is where you are able to communicate from a place of strength in a fun way and keep your strengths alive. This can be done in person, it can be virtual. It is super simple. And here's what you do. Have each team member design a strengths trading card. They can choose one of their top strengths, keep it within the top 5, and design a trading card. You can choose a theme that fits your team. I tend to use the superhero, superpower concept. So my card stems around that. But you can customize these approaches to work for whatever fits for you and your team. And they can design it personally if they have those kinds of skills, or they can use AI. For people like me who can't even draw a stick figure, AI is my answer for the trading card design. So here's what you do. You ask each person to choose one of their top strengths and include the following on their card. The theme name, the theme superpower. What is that core contribution or how it shows up for them? The theme kryptonite, that's that watch point or vulnerability that shows up when it's unmanaged. Their theme fuel, what they need and what that theme needs to thrive. And then their best partners. Who are those complementary theme pairs that are there for maximum collaboration? You can see my example and the exact prompt that I use on my website. You can literally take my example, drop it into your LLM, and it will design a card for you with your customizations and parameters. But here's the important part. So making the card is fun. Having these little trading cards is pretty cool. I even print mine out. They're laminated. I play with them, share them with my kids. After you have the cool cards, you have to share them with one another. So spend time. Again, 5-minute rule, nothing lengthy. Just take 5 minutes. And I like to do a speed connecting approach where it's upbeat, it's fun, but you do what works best for your team. Some teams like to post them. Some people like to do the wall walk, put them all up and look at them. However you want to do it, keep it light, keep it fun, and keep it with the spirit and intent of strengths at the forefront. So let's end here for this week. I hope you will spend some time and, practice the strengths-based pause. Look for those moments that are fueling or draining so that you can see your strengths in action and stay at your best. I hope you'll have some fun with your teams, design some cool trading cards. And honestly, if you come up with a really cool one, share it with me. I love seeing the neat ways people are enhancing and evolving ideas. Makes my maximizer ideation just super stoked. And remember, keep this stuff brief. Keep it simple. You can literally infuse the language of strengths into your life, into your culture in just a few minutes a week. Minutes add up and over time builds strength. So thank you for stepping into this space with me today. I hope that you will join us next week in the lab. Have a good week.